Like I was going to say earlier before we started recording, to be looking into the allegations and then suddenly find out that one of them is a bomb threat hoax kind of reminds
No,
me
honestly.
of when I was working third shift at the place.
Mhm.
There was like a 2-3 hour overlap between mine and the closer's shift, so we would always wind up talking about something. One night we were talking about the cocaine in Coca-Cola and when it was removed. Turns out
Oh,
they removed the cocaine from Coca-Cola like 2 or 3 years before cocaine became illegal, which I thought was really weird. But while I was scrolling through the Wikipedia page to learn that, I came across the section that talks about the Colombian death squad allegations from the early
oh yeah,
2000s.
yeah.
And I was like,
Not even allegations,
like,
proven fact.
hey, I know we're just learning about when the cocaine was taken out, but you guys need to hear this.
Oh my god.
Welcome to Casual Obsession, the horror movie podcast where we talk about horror movies. I'm your host, Noah, and with me today are my other hosts.
Yeah, I'm Nina. I'm also a host.
Hi, I'm Emma. I'm also a host.
I'm Jeff. I'm not a host, but I am always here, so
Yeah, it's really weird.
And we're happy to have him.
Honorary host.
Honorary host Jeff. Long running honorary host Jeff.
consistent guest.
It reminds me, I was listening to a different podcast this one time. I know, crazy. And the first guest they ever had on the podcast, they had him on 2 episodes in a row.
Oh.
Because they happened to record a double length episode. So they just broke it up and had a good time with it. But the long running joke for the next 100 episodes was that he was always there from the beginning and that he just had his mic muted. And for their 100th episode, they made a big to-do. They had him record something beforehand saying, "Hey guys, this has been really fun, but I'm just really feeling like you're talking over me all the time, so I quit."
That's so good.
That's
Amazing.
very good.
So, about horror movies, though, today we're talking about Underwater, released on, January 8th of 2020? Like, hot damn.
Wow.
Yeah,
What
early 2020, where movies go to die in January.
I was going to say, firstly, they released it
10th
January
of
10th there. Yeah, this is when you release movies that you hope do poorly.
Mm-hmm.
Or that you're going to force to do poorly, because good Lord.
But the joke was
What a
on
mess.
them. There weren't any movies for the rest of the year. It
It
was
I
just
mean-
Underwater and Fantasy Island and
It was
Sonic the
so-
Hedgehog. And
It was
that
so close
it
to
for
being
year.
the last.
What a
So
way
close
to
to being
go
the
out.
last movie that we saw in theaters.
Yeah, it was our last movie,
It was not.
wasn't it?
It was close to. No, Invisible Man was our last movie.
Oh yeah,
Fantasy
that was a
Island
much
was
better
my
one to
last
go
one.
out on.
And the first
Birds
one
of Prey
since
was
my last
Fantasy
one.
Island was
Birds of Prey is a good one to go out on.
Birds of Prey is a good one to
Heard
go
great
out on.
things.
Yeah,
Very
Demon
worth
Slayer was my
watching.
first one back as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
me
a year and a half
too.
later.
Just watched
Everyone's
that
been
like
to a movie
last
except
week. It was
me.
real
Maybe-
great.
Maybe this should have been a Demon Slayer episode.
It's not. It's
I
not
mean, there are
horror.
demons in it, so
I'm
Yeah.
gonna go watch Saw coming up soon. So,
Are you gonna drag me to that one?
do you want to go see Saw in theaters with me?
Wait,
Kind of.
I'm
yeah.
going opening night.
like original
Yeah,
Saw?
probably then.
No, the new one, Spiral.
Oh, they're still making more Saw movies. God damn it.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm so tired of there always being a
So
new Saw
excited.
movie every time I turn around.
Me
I'm
and my
still not
roommate.
caught up on the last
thrilled.
2/3 of them.
Me and my roommate saw a trailer for that while we were in theater seeing Demon Slayer. Mugen
Well, it looks really
Hype
bad,
Train.
doesn't it?
And, well, I've never seen any of the Saws, so I can't really say whether it looks good or bad for a Saw movie. But my roommate made a good point of she's like, I don't know that I can take Chris Tucker seriously in a dramatic role.
Chris Tucker.
Chris Rock.
Yeah,
Whichever
that's,
Chris
Did
it
you-
is.
Did you do that on purpose? Because if you didn't, you're the second person to accidentally call him Chris Tucker that I've seen today.
They're both actors that no longer work consistently.
And they're both also stand-up comedians.
That would do it.
So honestly, I can't even blame you. Nah, for a Saw movie, it still doesn't look good.
I'm
so
thrilled.
You're telling me the new Saw movie, which is we're 15 years into the series now. You're telling me the 15th year installment of Saw that has Chris Rock in it apparently
Actually,
isn't
I
going to
think
be
this
good?
is the 17th year of Saw.
17th.
Yeah,
Because
because
we're
it was
coming up on
2004.
20 years of Saw movies.
That's
I
wild.
know.
That's
I'm
too
so
much.
excited. Saw is my favorite soap opera.
Please never make me watch a Saw movie for this podcast.
I'm
It
apologize.
is
afraid
going to
that Saw.
happen. It is inevitable.
You are going
But-
to have to watch at least the first one,
but I
but
will
the good
say-
news is the first one's not that bad.
The first one is pretty good.
Well, the first one's
And
Okay,
then
so
not
I hear
good,
not
but
that
less.
bad and pretty good. So
Yeah, no,
It's-
basically pretty good. It is a well done movie. There's a reason that it got a million sequels.
Yeah. Saw 3 is probably the pinnacle of the franchise.
It's like
It
the first
establishes
one
a
is
pattern.
okay. I think they kind of got better as they went along because they embraced the absurdity a little bit.
The second one might be
But
the
they
best
also
one.
got
Speaking of-
way
Like,
less
unironically.
creative as they went
Speaking
along.
of things that get better as they go along because they embrace the absurdity.
Fine, I'll talk about Underwater. Fucking hell.
Oh,
Oh yeah, we're here to
Oh
talk
my
about
God.
that.
We're talking about Underwater. Okay, so the gist of the movie is there's an underwater oil drilling rig, and we got our people who work on it. And we open up with a terrible, terrible thing happening that destroys the entire station. Well, not immediately. It destroys immediately 70% of the station. And, you know, that's bad. And we get to meet up with all of our protagonists, Kristen Stewart and the other ones. And they all go through a heartwarming adventure where they walk along the bottom of the Marianas Trench for about a mile to the next drill station so that they can escape because all of the escape pods in their station are broken. Over the course of this heartwarming adventure, which is a monster movie homage to Alice in Wonderland,
what?
apparently.
What?
He does
I'll
quote
get back to
Alice
you
in
on that.
Wonderland in the very beginning.
I don't get that really, but
Well,
We'll get there.
See, yep, we'll get back to it. There's monsters, as it turns out, and that's
TJ Miller?
TJ Miller is surprisingly
TJ Miller
Less
is a
of a
monster.
TJ Miller is a monster, but TJ Miller's character Paul Hollywood,
Paul Hollywood.
his character Paul Hollywood is surprisingly not the monster of the movie.
Wow.
Instead, what are they called? They're called clingers.
Why are they called clingers?
I don't think they ever call them that in the movie.
I don't
No.
think
They
they
don't-
ever cling to anything either. So what's going on here?
They
Oh,
do
they
cling
do.
to something.
We'll
Oh,
get to
I guess
that
they
later.
We'll get to that
I
part
guess
later, though. So, yeah. I think that's a good spoiler-free thing. I gotta be honest, there's not much to spoil in this movie outside of very specific, like, character points.
Yeah, there's really not a
I think
ton
you
of,
could
like-
spoil some things.
And you know, the one
Story.
big twist that had me screaming in the
Okay,
movie
yeah, there's
theater.
one big twist at the very end of the movie that Nina was just like, and I was just like, no. Which is definitely what she wants to talk about.
I'm so excited.
But so I would like to go last with my rating on this.
Well, wait, does this movie have any
But-
fun facts?
Oh, I was going to hit the fun facts after we did
And
some
what
ratings
about-
because
what
some of the
about
fun facts are
critical
I
spoilers.
feel like the
Yes.
fun facts fit best into
I feel
the spoiler
like
zone.
I feel like you're not adhering to the format
You know,
in which we have our
I
episodes
do forget
very
whether
well.
the critical reception
it goes
or our
it
personal
goes fun
ones.
facts, critical reception, then our opinions, Noah.
All right, so I'll hit some fun
I
facts.
really
We've done
think we
this
should
like 50
change that.
times now.
I
got some
feel
good fun
like
facts.
we should push the fun facts segment to the spoiler zone
Me
because
too,
a lot of
with
fun
this one
facts about a lot of
specifically.
movies wind up getting into spoilers.
Okay, but to tease us for that, I'm going to give us a nice 2 fun facts
Okay.
They actually were wearing giant diving suits that weighed about 100 pounds apiece.
Nice.
Oh, wow.
They were wearing very large exoskeleton suits.
They looked real.
And
so.
here's a biggie. Despite being titled Underwater, no scenes were filmed underwater.
Wow.
Really?
Wow.
None of them?
You mean to
Yeah.
tell me
You
they
remember
were
when
in
TJ
the
Miller was
Marianas
drowning?
Trench?
Well, he wasn't
That
drowning.
can't be right.
What?
Yeah, this is making me doubt your fun fact website. that
No,
you pulled
no,
up
no.
here.
This one's legit because this is from Bloody Disgusting, and I do trust them
Okay,
as an
that's-
actual like credible horror site.
Wow.
That's fair, but
But yeah,
some of those scenes were clearly actually
Like
filmed
partially
underwater.
underwater.
no.
Shots,
yeah,
at
partially under.
least. Not-
Every shot of this movie was shot in an abandoned Lowe's.
Really?
What? Excuse
Yes.
me?
What?
The whole movie was shot in a Lowe's.
Are you
You're
pranking
fucking
me?
with me.
No, no,
What?
I'm being 100% honest here. Here's another one.
Could they not afford
TJ
an
Miller
actual
thought that they
studio?
were-
Hold on, what?
No. It was all shot in an abandoned Lowe's, which is, for the record, a very valid studio space. You put your walls up, you block everything off. It's no different than a big, tall ceiling
yes.
Hollywood studio.
I understand the concept of a space being changed to fit whatever you need it to be because that's how everything fucking works. But what? Don't they have actual places that are already outfitted for this though? So you have to do less fixing up work
But
than
you
you
have to-
would with, say, an abandoned goddamn Lowe's? What in the world?
Well, here's the thing. Instead of doing green screen work, they did black screen work because everything was shot at the bottom of the Marianas Trench.
Right, so it's all dark
They
anyway.
just had to make everything inky black. So instead of green screens, it was black everywhere. Every single shot was like just a couple tactful like lights to see where everyone was and black screen.
No, I'm so glad you tell us this before we give our ratings because
Is
I
your rating
was
was
getting
going
bumped up?
to give this movie a pretty good rating, but now I have to give it a fantastic rating because that's just so cool.
Dude, no,
What?
it gets better.
What was the budget? Do we know what the budget
That's
was?
a good question. Let me check. I feel like I saw it somewhere. Estimated $80,000.
What?
Oh, wow. That's nothing.
Wow, considering
So
it,
this movie
the
lost
effects-
money.
The effects
And
look
probably a
good.
bulk of that money went
Well,
toward
that's the
casting,
thing.
right?
No, I mean a chunk of
Or
it might
toward,
have,
you know,
but here's
getting
the thing:
Kristen
most of it went
Stewart
through the
and that other
CG.
guy.
It was the CG. I want to say most of this budget went into the CG because the CG in this movie is
Did you
actually
say 80,000
really good.
when you meant 80 million?
I meant 80 million. I am
Oh,
so
okay.
sorry. 80
I was
million.
like,
Oh,
I am so
okay.
sorry.
Okay.
Sorry,
That
I
makes-
looked up and read it on the screen, and I
That
was
makes
like, well,
an
that
awful
makes
lot
much
more
more sense.
sense.
I was like, you telling
Yes.
me they only had a budget of $80,000
But
and
it
they still
only-
lost
What
money?
in the world?
I did say
it
that,
only
and I
grossed
lied.
about half that.
Yeah, it grossed
sad.
worldwide 40 million,
Sad.
almost 41.
The effects look good.
Um,
they did.
they
good
do.
with it.
So good.
For the
You-
amount of
it's clear
CGI
that they
that
put
has to
in-
be involved in making it, they made it look
Mhm.
really, really good by hiding it in the dark and stuff, which we can talk
Oh,
about
yeah.
later. But
Yeah, they it's very, very clear that they put most of their money into their special effects budget, and it's really, really good. They put enough money into the special effects budget actually that TJ Miller thought that they were going to add a CG bunny as a real bunny and not a stuffed bunny,
Huh?
because there are a few shots where they had him do his takes with a real live rabbit. So he assumed every time he had the fake, he thought it was real. He thought in the movie it would be real, which is why he acts like the stuffed rabbit is a real living animal.
That's the reason he does that.
Amazing.
What in the
That is the
world?
reason he does it.
Okay,
It's
we're gonna
not
have
just
a longer
because he's supposed
conversation
to
about
be.
that when we talk about him as a character later. But what in the world? They tricked TJ
Yeah,
Miller into
no.
thinking that he was gonna be holding an actual rabbit.
Yeah,
This is the
Yeah.
best movie ever.
yeah.
Again, I'm so glad you're telling me this.
This is why we have the fun facts before.
Well, there's some
Oh.
other fun facts that I'm very excited to talk about, but they'll be waiting. Let's talk about critical reception. You know, Roger Ebert.
I recall.
Isn't he dead?
You
Isn't
know how
he dead?
he still runs? Yeah, he's dead. He's very dead.
Okay.
But he still has RogerEbert.com, still churns out movie reviews from his peers and his like people who worked for his company.
Right.
Yada yada. You want to? I would love you to guess what they gave Underwater, knowing that he rates his movies on a 1 to 4 scale.
4 out of 4.
No, but very close. They gave it a 3 out of 4.
Okay.
Really?
With the opening line, Underwater is the kind of no-nonsense B-movie with an A-list cast that Hollywood used to make more often. And I was just looking up the usual reviews when I saw that one, and that made me so happy.
I think that's a really good way of putting it.
It really is.
Yeah.
I want to find my old Underwater review just to see what I rated this the first time around.
9 stars.
No, I hated this movie the first time around.
Noah liked it even less than I did.
I remember you talking about how you thought it sucked.
And I was going into this not expecting to enjoy it the second time. I remember coming out of it and literally telling Noah, well, that was fun. And the end twist like made it for me, but I don't think I'll ever watch it again.
And I walked out of it saying, that was fun, and the end twist ruined it for me, and I will never watch it again.
And here we are.
I had rated this a 5 out of 10.
That's so funny.
Which puts me in line with most of the critical reception here. IMDb gave it a 5.8. Rotten Tomatoes is 47. Metacritic is 48. Letterboxd is 2.5 or 2.8 out of 5. It's a generally 50% movie. However, in this second viewing, I lied. I'm going first now. In this second viewing, I have changed my mind in a big way, and I have upped my rating from a 5 to an 8 because this was so much more fun. It was such a dumb movie that just delivers, and I loved it the second time around.
Yeah.
So that's an 8 from me. Nina, how about you?
Yeah, I really liked it the first time, mostly because at the end, and Kristen Stewart, who I think does a great job, honestly, for her reputation from Twilight. A lot of people kind of don't expect her to be the like cool action hero, but she really pulls it off in this movie, and I love her. I think that I'm gonna stick with what I probably initially felt. I don't do Letterboxd, so I don't know for sure, but I think a 7 out of 10. I don't think this movie got better or worse for me on the second viewing. I still just really like it. I probably won't ever watch it again.
I'm gonna own it. I really liked it. Emma, how about you? What would you rate this movie?
What a great question, Noah. You see, in the American Revolution...
Okay.
I can't believe she rated this 1776.
The only number that matters, brother.
No, this movie was fun. I love Kristen Stewart. I never watched Twilight when I was younger, but since coming out as queer, and then she's kind of been very queer and has been owning it up in Hollywood lately. I've really enjoyed like her recent stuff. So I was excited to watch this. She does a great job. The rest of the cast is really solid. I enjoyed the movie. It's a fun ride. I don't know that there is anything like super of substance to this movie. It's just like a fun time.
I would agree with that.
So I'd give it maybe like I was gonna say like a 6.5, but I'm gonna bump it up to 7 for Kristen Stewart.
I respect that.
Yeah,
I think,
that's valid.
Honestly, nothing of substance but a good time is probably the best review that this movie could have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of, Jeff, you better give it a better review because we saved you for last, so I'm just saying.
Well, coming into this episode,
I thought you were about to just say 1.
Stop. 1. Well, coming into this episode, sitting down in this chair to record, I was thinking that I was going to give it like a 7, but after everything that you've just told me about the way that the movie was made, it's a 10. This is one of the best movies I've ever watched. Definitely. It's got really good characters. I really like the way that they fleshed them out. It's got no story to speak of, really.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it's fine without one, which is the kind of thing that I usually say as a joke about really bad movies that are entertaining. But like,
yeah,
I feel like the whole thing is just you're
watching an event happen, and that's okay, and that's it.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
that's a story. What do you mean there's no story? That's a story.
Kristen Stewart says right there in her monologue at either end of the movie when she talks about feeling helpless and stuff. And it's kind of like that's kind of the experience of watching the movie. You're just watching disasters occur over and over as you get to know these characters, and then that's it. And it does it really well. Like, so yeah, I'm giving it a soft 10.
A hard 7, soft 10.
Yeah, it's in there somewhere.
Okay.
I liked it a lot. I'll probably watch it again and like it a lot then.
Fair enough.
It's pretty reasonable.
Oh my god, I just read your triggers.
Okay.
Oh boy.
So I have, since Nina mentioned this, I guess we'll get into the trigger warnings. I have 3 things written down.
I have one thing. Well, 2 things.
I bet one of them is the same, at least.
I would imagine so.
So the first one is thalassophobia. That's the fear of deep, dark water.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a really important one to have up there.
It's what the whole movie is. So
thanks for making me watch this movie, considering I have that.
There aren't any sharks.
Me too.
There are no sharks.
It's true. I also put claustrophobia because I forgot how nasty it was watching them put the suits on for the first time. And then you get that one POV shot from inside Kristen Stewart's helmet where you just hear the fan running and she's breathing and it's humming and it's so
couldn't be me.
Close.
Yeah.
Not okay. And that was a much more visceral experience this time than watching it in the theater. Because in a theater, it's at least coming at you from the front. But I was watching this with headphones in, and that was not an okay time. And then my last one is
Can I guess? Oh. Vor?
Vor, because of
there is a distinct
trigger warning segment, not a boner warning segment.
When the clinger like envelops Kristen Stewart in his giant sack mouth.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So I marked that down because that feels important to me. I don't think you shouldn't watch this movie if you have a problem with that because it is only the one scene. But I think it's a fair thing to point out. What was yours, Emma? I'm curious.
Thalassophobia.
Yep.
So we got that one. And the other one is TJ Miller is in this movie.
Oh yeah, TJ Miller warning.
Bare ass shot almost of TJ Miller. He's got the raggediest underwear on and it's played like it's played off like you're going to be seeing a sexy shot of one of the women and then TJ Miller's face pops into frame and he's like, "Aw, they're falling off." Or whatever it is he said. And it's just like,
once more, if they had like any other comedic actor play that character, I'd be all over him as a character. Like, honestly, genuinely.
And that's something I want to talk about when we get through into the spoilers. Right. But before we hit that, Emma, I think you might have some things to say about how scary or not this movie is.
Thank you.
Unless anyone else has other triggers. I don't think that there are any others, but you know.
Thank you, Noah, for asking me. So one scary thing is TJ Bomb Threat Miller is in this movie.
I still can't believe that. That was wild. Such a whiplash moment when I saw that news headline.
Yeah. I had no idea that was a thing until you told me. But yeah, so he's in this movie. That's pretty frightening to see him after so many of years of not having to see him in my movies. But also, like, I think the big scary thing for me was they're deep, deep, deep underwater, which underwater is terrifying. We know what lives in the water, sharks. And you don't know, like, the movie straight up starts off with the station kind of like imploding. There's been like a hull breach or something. You don't know what caused the hull breach. There's stuff banging on the outside and you don't know what it is the entire time. Well, not the entire time, but for a large portion of the movie, you don't know what it is.
The first like 30 minutes.
Yeah. So the entire time I was thinking, what if it's sharks? And I was so scared. Just expecting a shark to kind of plop out of nowhere any second. But then you find out it's not sharks, and then it's not really scary anymore. So the first 30 minutes, 10 out of 10. The last hour, like 6
It's still underwater, but
it's still underwater, which is scary. But 6 out of 10.
There we go.
That's pretty good. Is it spoiler time, my dude?
It is
We're getting into
spoiler time, my dude.
So,
Noah, why don't you start us off with a spoil summary?
The spoil summary is, as Emma mentioned, it's not sharks, but it is a monster. As we also mentioned when I referred to the clingers. They're big, rubbery fishmen. They're really kind of gross. They're like boogers if boogers could walk. The classic booger men.
Interesting way to describe them. I don't know that I agree with that description, but go on, King.
So, what ends up happening is as the crew tries to make their way from the main station to the Roebuck drill, which is about a mile away, they get picked off one by one. One guy, his suit cracks under the pressure from the bottom of the ocean and he implodes, that added a whole new level of, I don't want that to happen to me under my book of I'm afraid of the ocean.
Yep.
Even though that's nothing that could ever happen to me because I will never, ever go down into that deep of an area of the ocean. But
You never know.
TJ Miller gets ripped in half.
Yep.
And
the captain who was the guy who played the French criminal in Ocean's 11.
Yeah.
Yeah. Captain Lucien, Vincent Cassel.
Very French man.
Very French man.
The Frenchest, perhaps.
He's
cool.
the Frenchiest. But yeah, he gets dragged up surface direction by one of the clingers
and then blows up.
Detonates. Yikes, poor him. And it ends up going down to just Kristen Stewart and her two friends making their way into the drill. They get to the drill just in time to see the big twist at the end of the movie. The big monster's Cthulhu.
It's literally
Also,
Cthulhu.
I really don't think
called,
it's Cthulhu.
It's confirmed Cthulhu.
Confirmed.
That's pretty lame.
Production notes called him the Behemoth. And
I have a story about that, actually.
Originally not going to be Cthulhu, but they peppered in vague enough details that they decided to just go for it at the end. Kristen Stewart gets everybody to the escape pod bay where there are 3 pods. They load up 2 of them. And she's like, well, the 3rd one's broken, so you guys go up without me because you love each other and my husband's dead. And she decides to stay down there. And when it becomes clear that Cthulhu is about to send the clingers up to grab the escape pods and they will not escape otherwise, she detonates the drill because that is apparently something you can do from any computer terminal.
Yeah, that makes sense.
She wasn't even in a command deck. She was just in a spot.
Because she wanted to run to the command deck, but it blew up and Cthulhu literally just freaking plays like whack-a-mole and just slams a couple corridors and turns them and shuts them off. And one of those is the command deck because you hear the AI go, command deck sealed. And you're like, oh, well, shit, now she can't do anything. Nope, turns out just any old computer will do.
Unless it's trying to imply that she was sealed into the command deck.
But the other one said something else when he slammed it.
It is the room with the escape pods in it, so it does kind of make sense for a self-destruct control to be located in that area.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, sure, yeah.
Kind of.
But also, it wasn't like a self-destruct button. She just put too much energy into the drill, and it blew.
That's true.
Oh,
she do be blowing
that
things
doesn't
up.
make so much sense, I suppose.
But yeah, so here we are. That's how the movie ends. She detonates, and Nina and I both have a vivid memory of bare-ass Cthulhu trying to climb out of the pit. But that is apparently not true. That never happened because we can't find a single image of caked-up Cthulhu because we both remember butt cheeks.
Yes,
we both remember
him
2
having
human
ass
legs
cheeks.
and a butt. But I can't find anything.
Here, I have an artistic rendition that at least one of you might have seen at this point.
Yeah, anyone who follows Nina on Twitter will have seen Cake Thulu.
Cake Thulu. Let me go find him.
I saw that, but
then you've both seen.
We both remember that happening.
I remember him crawling out of it, and you see his legs, 2 normal legs, because I remember we both came out of the theater and we were like, wow, Cthulhu's face looks great. As a Cthulhu design, it's very different. It looks a lot like the design for the clingers, so it's consistent. it works. But then when you see the rest of his body, it's terrible. And I still think that. I think him having a normal like chest with pecs and shit, which he still does have even in like the version we just saw. I still think that looks stupid. I don't know how else they would have done it, but I feel like it does not look that super great. I do think it's better, honestly, than the design that Noah's sharing. That's the like original Behemoth design. Mm-hmm. This is a very personal thing on my like behalf. Like this is like I'm aware you guys might not agree with this. I loved that it was Cthulhu because it's so out of pocket. It's like you decided to. There was no buildup. It felt like, and then it's like, yeah, it's Cthulhu.
So that's the funny thing is there actually was buildup.
There was a little bit.
So there is one scene,
and I caught this in the theater, and I'm really proud of myself for it.
They get when Kristen Stewart gets to Shepherd Station, and she opens up the captain's locker. We find a few things there, like that the captain's daughter died when she was 14, and that's why he accidentally said she was 14 years old.
Right.
But there's also a bunch of lines on the map that intersect where the Roebuck drill is now. And there's a little sketch that kind of looks like a Cthulhu. And there's another sketch that is a pentagram with a skull on it.
Oh.
And this was them trying to build their monster mythos that they were going for. Originally, they were going to pick a different Lovecraft monster.
Yes.
Who were they? Do you remember who they were going for?
Frick, I remember it's one of the ones, you know.
It was like Yob Snaggoth or something.
It was not Yog. It wasn't Yog. It wasn't
Yog
that man.
Okay.
It wasn't.
No.
Sad.
No, it was one of the other ones.
He's the other most well-known one, I think.
Yeah, no, it was a different one. Let me look it up.
Like the Shoggoths or something?
Maybe. Dagon.
It was Dagon.
Oh. It was Dagon.
Dagon.
That's once you said it, I'm like, yeah, it was Dagon.
So they considered Dagon, but then they decided to just go with the biggest name recognition, which
makes a certain amount of sense.
I respect it well enough. But yeah, there was a lot that they could have done with this movie, but they decided to go with Cthulhu instead. Now, the design I shared with you guys, if anyone wants to see it, just Google Alice in Wonderland meets H.P. Lovecraft and find the bloody disgusting article about this movie. It is the header image. It makes him into more of a scuttling monster, which I gotta be honest, I like the idea. It makes more sense for a bottom of the sea dwelling monster.
I feel like this is my biggest problem with this movie, actually. I can get to, you can finish and then I'll talk about it.
But I also like the idea of them going away from this is just a big thing that lived at the bottom of the ocean to this is actually a giant problem. Because yeah, Crabman would be a big problem, but Crabman just looks like a Star Wars extra, whereas Cthulhu does not. Know what I'm saying?
Well, and I feel like has a lot of... Sorry, go
ahead.
Okay, Cthulhu has a lot of thematic implications about greed and the corporation that built the drill rig.
Also known as a drig.
It has a lot of thematic implications about like humanity and the drill's involvement in kind of waking up Cthulhu, which is like, I think that's why it's fun to me that it's Cthulhu, is it does like kind of play a little more into those themes.
I think it works even if it isn't Cthulhu.
Yeah.
But
Cthulhu historically has the whole cult thing going on, and to turn a capitalist drill rig into fundamentally a cult is super fun, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
So
it would have been really cool if they would have gone like a Dead Space 3 angle with it, and it was that like the corporation was owned by a Cthulhu worshipping cult, and they were trying to wake him up on purpose.
Honestly, the implication is there
is
that there's at least a splinter cult like that.
That's why the
within
notes
the
in the
organization.
locker were interesting to me on first viewing.
I got
they did start drilling again.
I got the idea more that it was like kind of an accident and just a consequence of their greed.
Yeah, the locker notes imply that there is some intention here, especially with the way the captain says that the Shepherd Station is gone and like totally inaccessible was kind of his implication. Even though it is distinctly still there and even powered on still.
Yeah.
Shows kind of like that they're trying to hide something, you know? Emma, what were you going to say?
I hadn't been listening because I was looking for Cthulhu booty.
Right?
But where did you guys watch this? Because I watched on HBO, and there was a scene where Cthulhu was kind of like crawling out of a pit away from the explosion. Mm-hmm. I don't remember seeing them cheeks, but I might have just missed it.
He is crawling out of the pit, but he's got like tentacle legs, or
you just can't see. I can't see much below his waist.
Yeah.
I don't think that here. Full disclosure. I don't think there's a different version where he does have cheeks and 2 legs. I think we were both so disappointed with the Cthulhu design that we built a false memory where he had 2 legs and cheeks. That is my.
that was full disclosure. The thing I was most worried about. As soon as he stood up and you saw him, I'm like, so help me. If I see his full body, I'm going to be so mad. And then at the end of the movie, they show his full body, and I was so mad.
Yeah. I feel like...
No, go ahead.
I feel like a really important thing for a monster like that, be it Cthulhu or not, but especially if it is Cthulhu, you need to be really careful not to do a full body shot, because if you can't see the whole thing at once, you get the impression that it is even huger than they're showing it to be, you know?
And that was my disappointment.
And that's a huge problem with this one, is that it does
the
show
full body
that full
shot makes him feel too limited.
Small.
He feels tiny.
Yeah.
When they vaporized Cthulhu,
he's too small.
I'm looking at him and I'm like, that guy's not bigger than a skyscraper. Yeah. Skyscrapers are taller than this Cthulhu.
Here's the
Even
thing,
though I know this underwater drill is massive.
Right.
And the amount of space he's taking up is massive.
Huge.
I also know that the clingers are taller than the average person by about 3 feet, but like you see them on his body, you can actually size up about what he is.
He's huge.
And he's huge. Yeah. But he didn't look that big.
Yeah, that's
that bummed me out.
Once they show the full body shot, it kind of ruins it, but like up until that shot, they had built his size so effectively.
Right? Yeah. With the shot of the clingers like draping from one of his tentacles.
Yeah.
Like, that's so cool, like design wise and concept wise, that like, and I don't remember where I got this idea or if Noah and I talked about it, but since it is Cthulhu, one thing that I had thought was like these clingers are humans and cultists who have like gotten such devotion to Cthulhu that they're now just kind of like suckled to his body. Oh. I think that's probably me making shit up, but that's how I like to think of them.
I agree that it's you making shit up, but I also don't want to discount the fact that they could be worshipers still.
That's a neat idea for sure. If there had been any indications of that, then that would be something.
I really wish they just developed a little more of that shit.
You could make the argument that that they might be sort of grown from corpses if we want to look at it that way, because the one is what we little thing that jumps out at TJ Miller's face and reminds me of that scene from Alien where they lay it down on the table and they're like, what the hell is this? That scene, that little thing is obviously like sort of a larval clinger. So I sort of got the impression from my This Isn't Cthulhu read of the movie that those thing the little larva thing and the full size clinger and then Cthulhu were just like 3 different stages in the life cycle of this one creature. So if maybe the clingers live for 1,000 years the way that deep sea organisms tend to, and they get that big or something like that, you know.
Okay.
It's honestly, if it weren't confirmed Cthulhu, that's not a bad read.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
So you referenced Alien. Nina, do you have something related to this before I
was going to do exactly what you're doing, so go ahead.
Cool. I was also planning to do this as well. What is this?
Tight. So Emma, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that you have not seen the movie Alien, right?
Right, she has.
I've seen Alien.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Perfect. I don't know why I assumed you hadn't, but I'm glad you have, because we're about to get spoilery for Alien. There's been a lot of criticism of this movie, from myself included originally, that this movie was a cheap Alien ripoff. And I would like to counter that, because I heard some other opinions about it that made me change my mind. Firstly, this is a new movie. Alien has not had a good Alien movie since the 80s.
That's true.
Nothing of the old Alien formula of Alien 1 and 2 has existed since then. The other Alien movies were not like that. We have this really disconcerting monster stalking you, not much you can do about it movie again that just happens to, instead of being in tight ship corridors, is in the endless expanse of the bottom of the ocean where you can't wander more than 5 feet away from your light rope or else you're dead, you know? And it's really cool. It's really fun. And this is a new movie to bring this story that, people who don't like older movies might have never looked at Alien just because it is a movie from the 70s. That movie is almost 50 years old now. Like, that's a while ago. And it's a really good movie. It's a very, very good movie. Very worth watching. But new fans to horror, there's so much good stuff coming out right now. There's so much new, really high quality stuff that you can spend all your time watching new horror movies and never have the time to go back to the old stuff, you know?
Yeah.
And now here's the Alien story again, bringing that story to a new audience. And now maybe people will see, oh, it's just like Alien. Maybe now they'll go watch Alien, you know? That's great. That's cool.
Also, I think it brings in enough elements from other sources that it shouldn't be dismissed as just an Alien ripoff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Also, it's PG-13. This is a really good example of PG-13 horror.
Yeah.
Because this is actually scary. Like,
yeah.
I enjoyed it a lot more the second time, and I think it's because when I watched this in the theater, my anxiety was cranked up to a 10 because it was really...
Because you thought it might be sharks.
Yeah, I thought it might be sharks.
Yeah.
And I could not just stare at the screen and be okay with it. It was an uncomfortable time. And I think that's probably why I enjoyed it more. But this is PG-13, Aliens rated R. That makes it a little less accessible in addition to its age. There's a lot that this movie has going for it.
It really does, yeah.
And it has a few obvious nods, like them throwing down the larva on the table. And it's just like, well, that's actually a scene straight from...
Yeah,
Alien.
right down to the way that it jumps at his face while he's out there. Like...
Yeah, like, it's very blatant.
Yeah.
And that's not a problem.
Yeah, it's okay.
Like,
I like that they owned up to it and made it obvious. Like, hey, this is...
So here is a fun fact.
Let's hear it.
So, in reference to you saying Alien is rated R, so that makes it a little more inaccessible, which is true. Fun fact that I learned recently from... I've been watching a kind of game show from College Humor called Actually.
I do love every clip
Actually.
I've seen from that.
Would recommend watching some episodes. It's really fun. But one of the things was they were talking about how Steven Spielberg originally wrote the screenplay or whatever that eventually became both E.T. and Poltergeist.
Uh-huh.
And
no way.
yeah, but the thing that the actually of that was that actually both movies were PG because back then PG-13 didn't exist because it wasn't made a thing until 1984.
Yep.
And Alien came out 1979. So
that's why all the old James Bond movies are rated PG, even though there's full nudity in some of them.
Yeah.
I've had guys try to convince me that they're rated R.
That's not true.
It's not. My boss almost threw hands with the guy one time.
I don't want to see the R-rated James Bond movie. I gotta be honest.
I feel like they wouldn't be fun.
But Emma,
James Bond, but he says fuck.
Oh no.
A fucking
Actually, I would
martini.
watch that.
I like the idea of it being like that. Like it's just all the normal dialogue, but then they just slip it into places that it doesn't really belong. That might actually be a better version of the movie.
Maybe.
Felix Leiter with the fucking CIA.
But yeah, so I mean, if Alien had come out a few years later, or if PG-13 became a thing a little bit earlier, who knows? Alien might have been PG-13.
Potentially.
Could have been.
I don't know. I think getting H.R. Geiger in there with his phallic monster designs might have still been too much.
Well, that's true, yeah.
That man was just like,
we can never know for sure.
We put penises everywhere. Smiley face.
Penises are scary.
They are.
Have you ever seen Alien? The scariest penis I've ever seen.
It's a penis that has another penis that pops out and bites you.
Yikes.
So now that we're talking about design, I think that's actually a great place to jump off to. I have actually a big problem with the character design in this movie. And that's that, like, you know what deep sea creatures look like. We've all seen some deep sea creatures in our lives.
We've all seen the blobfish when it's brought up to the surface.
The blobfish is one thing, but I'm talking about that one thing that has the really long legs. I'm sorry, I'm getting jeebies just talking about this. This is really rough. A lot of undersea creatures are... There it is.
Oh, it looks like a bacteria.
Yeah, except it's huge. A lot of deep sea creatures are really, really weird looking.
It's called a big fin squid.
Please share it in the chat. You guys need to be aware that this thing is absolutely terrifying to look at.
This looks like it's asking for its turn on the Xbox.
He looks like he's doing that T-pose where you have your arms down.
It's
if I ever encountered one of these in the water, I would like die. I'd just fall over dead.
Oh yeah, those things are creepy.
Yeah, so that kind of thing. There's a lot of deep sea creatures, and we're all kind of familiar with like the look that a lot of deep sea creatures have. I'm not sure personally that the Clingers really capture that. I think TJ Miller's character nails it when he says like Slenderman looking bitch. Like it's like you can't lampshade the fact that you have kind of a lazy creature design and then just move on. I guess you can because they did. Mm-hmm. But I personally they look a little too human for me.
I think I'm gonna respectfully disagree with you here.
All right.
Ooh.
Not that I love the creature design or anything, but I feel like there are a lot of mythoses and other things about deep sea humanoids that kind of look similar.
Yeah.
Like I know Aquaman has a storyline about deep sea humanoids that look kind of similar to the monsters that are in here.
Yeah.
And like Cthulhu mythos and stuff, I'm sure has stuff. Yeah. But I think pulling from those sorts of things, I think it fits in line with all of that, even though it doesn't necessarily fit in line with what like actual deep sea life looks like. But if they wanted to do that, then I think drop the Cthulhu thing entirely.
That's fair. Mm-hmm. I think that it just disappoints me a little because the deep sea stuff already has like so much creepy stuff going on, and it's creative in a way that humans never could be. You know, like the way the deep sea life has evolved is like beyond our wildest imagination as far as like what they've needed to do to survive. So like the human imagination could never capture that. And I think that this movie is a good example of that, is that what we imagine to be lurking in the sea is nowhere near as otherworldly as what is actually there.
Yeah.
That's my personal opinion. I do still think the Clingers are creepy, and that shot of them hanging on to Cthulhu is never going to leave my head. I think that's such a good shot.
Yeah. We never get a fantastic look at the Clingers, do we?
I think we get a pretty good one when she blows the one guy up.
We get a good idea of it, but for the most part, they are always obscured somehow, whether it's by just the darkness in the water or whatever.
Oh, I'm sorry. So these things are 12 feet tall.
They're
a little bit taller than a normal person.
They're taller than
I thought they
Lady
were
Dimitrescu.
They could swallow the vampire lady.
Wow.
Somebody wants to see that.
I was going to say, I feel like I could make a buck off of that art.
I bet you could.
I don't want that, but imagine if it existed.
Just imagine if somebody drew that, guys. Like, it would be,
I mean, they have
like,
tag us in it just so
I wouldn't be interested, but just like imagine.
If someone wants to pay me $200, I will draw that.
But yeah, I'm looking at concept art of these dudes, and I only just realized that there is a diving suit next to them for scale that does not even come up to their waist.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That was the impression that I got. I was surprised earlier when you said they're only a few feet taller than a person. I was just kind of like, oh, that's
I was clearly
not the movie
mistaken.
I watched.
Because they're a solid 12 to 14 feet tall. Because I mean, what's his name? Lafranche. He's like
Lafranche.
He's 6'2".
Isn't that the guy from Flushed Away?
Vincent Castle is 6'2".
Yeah,
and
that's
he's
what I
about
just said.
half their size.
I just said that.
No, sorry, I am processing. You said he was. Did you say he was exactly 6'2"?
Yes.
Damn, I was
that
already busy googling
Honestly,
it.
the more close-up, clean shots I get to see of these things, the more I guess outside of their obvious humanoid elements, they really do look a lot like deep sea fish. Because have you ever noticed that anglerfish are all bone and muscle and they look shredded as hell?
They look like those dinosaur reconstructions where you just stretch the skin over the skeleton.
Which honestly makes it seem more or less unreasonable when people are like, here's our dinosaur we came up with, where it's like, well, you're very clearly wrong. And there's a lot of evidence to prove that there's no way they would be like that. But simultaneously, there are a lot of fish that look just like that. So
and reptiles are a little less not like that than other creatures. But
point being
that
here's
clingers,
the dudes.
man.
I like how there's a frog just kind of vibing here on the side of this reference.
Yeah, what's he doing?
That it's like they're gonna look like a frog. This frog is fucking huge.
I think aren't they supposed to be?
You know what the monsters ought to be? They ought to be this frog, but just make it gigantic.
Here's my thing. Are they did I miss a line where they talk about them being kind of amphibious?
No.
No.
Okay.
There was not one.
All right. I thought there was a nod towards them being able to survive slightly out of water.
I mean, one would imply, since they can walk on two legs, that maybe they could. But also, as we know from our good friend the blobfish, they will probably pop when they get to the surface.
Well, yeah.
Right.
Unless they're kept together by the magic of the great sleeper. Who knows?
Perhaps. Yes. I mean,
who knows? Cthulhu didn't seem to be using a whole lot of magic in this movie, though. He was more just slapping stuff.
Yeah, he didn't cast a single fireball.
They just woke him
Cthulhu's
up like hours before.
The fireball.
Yeah.
That's what he's known for. They're like, oh no, it's Cthulhu. I hope he doesn't fireball me.
Cthulhu's just like, I cast fireball.
He's known for casting fireball and summoning sharks. Those are his things.
Do you think
it's his
Cthulhu would cast Eldritch Blast?
No. He
sense,
walks into the room and they're like, all right, before you see, and he's like, I cast fireball.
Yeah.
The first right away. He's honestly, he's the worst player.
And every time the DM, Dagon, is like, damn it, Cthulhu, can you let me describe the room before you cast Fireball? Who are you even casting it at? And Cthulhu's
Dagon's
like, I don't care.
There's an oil rig right there. It's going to explode when you cast that. If you'd let me describe that to you.
Fireball.
All right, you explode.
Banging on the table harder and harder.
Can we talk about the Alice in Wonderland thing, though?
I would like to.
I'm dying for an explanation.
What is that?
So,
what's
like,
that doing
there's
in there?
a lot of little Firstly, TJ Miller at one point, after referencing a line from the book offhandedly earlier in the movie, he makes another reference to it. Let me find it in my notes.
Yeah, he makes like 3 references.
Because he makes a second book quote.
Mm-hmm.
When he's just like, in the book.
Yeah, he literally just says something, well, in the book, Alice cries so many tears that she almost drowns in them.
Yeah, and it's like, dude, no one is on the same page as you with this book. I get you have an Alice in Wonderland boner because it's on the back of your suit.
And you got a rabbit.
And you have a white rabbit, which he thought was real. And you've got, like, I get he's got a lot of stuff that he, like, as a character is very aware of. But no one else here has read the book.
Is he supposed to be a Mad Hatter allegory?
He definitely has to be,
so.
Right?
It definitely seems unhinged. Like he is just like you said, just an unhinged weirdo dude, and everyone else in the cast is just like not talking about it, which I absolutely loved. Just like how I didn't mind his in the book comment, because I was just like, yeah, he would say that, and they would just let him. That's what would happen in real life.
So there were people trying to tell me there was a Cthulhu tattoo on his chest.
I was about to
ask.
The
Cheshire Cat.
Wasn't the one on his stomach like something that was Cthulhu-y?
I don't know.
I didn't take a look.
But he has a Cheshire cat on his chest.
Google this, but let's find out.
But yeah, he's got a Cheshire cat on his chest. He's got "We're All Mad Here" on the back of his suit. He's got a white rabbit. He references the book a lot. There's a Queen of Hearts taped to the back of the chair that Kristen Stewart sits in the command deck.
Oh.
There's a lot of stuff that happens. Huh. It's pretty great. But I really, personally, I do not see how this is really connected to Alice in Wonderland outside of them saying it is connected to Alice in Wonderland, and here's our proof. We referenced Alice in Wonderland 37 times.
Yeah, it seems like they made a bunch of references and thought that made it something. On his chest?
No, it's a Cheshire cat.
I really don't see it
no,
anywhere
it is
in
a Cheshire
cat. Story or anything.
But I can't visualize it.
The director says it is a Cheshire cat.
There is a Cheshire cat underneath it. Like I see, because there's the cat. But above it, what is that?
That is the cat wearing a crown or something.
But weird. The director, to be fair, also said that this movie is Alice in Wonderland, which is obviously not true.
Yeah,
it's like there's a lot of cool nods to Alice in Wonderland. You know, maybe it's like a clickbaity really just element of this article
saying, "Hey, we're nodding to Alice in Wonderland." Like,
here's the thing: I think that if they'd gone, like, this is just true of so many movies we've watched on this podcast, where it's like if you had taken this to the full conclusion, it would have, like, the ideas of doing this movie with some underwater, like, Alice in Wonderland vibes, or like a full-on Cthulhu thing where you actually have like cosmic horror elements. That would have been great. But instead what we got was like a wild fun time that felt more like a modern take on Alien underwater than it feels like an Alice in Wonderland or Cthulhu movie.
Yeah.
Which isn't a bad thing. I like this movie a lot for what it is, but I think that claiming that it's a Cthulhu movie or claiming that it's an homage to Alice in Wonderland is fundamentally misleading about the tone of the movie, which is way closer to Alien than either of those things.
Yeah.
True.
The way the director saw it, he saw Nora's story, Nora being Kristen Stewart, as a sort of monster movie take on Alice in Wonderland, with Nora/Alice traveling deeper and deeper down the rabbit hole. And I just think it as it's just an event happens and she walks through the event.
Yeah, it's more like a disaster movie than anything else.
It doesn't get weirder and wackier as it goes on. It just goes.
Yeah.
You just find more out. Alice in Wonderland isn't about Alice uncovering more truths as she goes along. It's just things getting more unexplainable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's fine. But
Lord of the Rings is like Alice in Wonderland because Frodo just goes further and further down this rabbit hole.
I gotta be honest, I like that. That read is better than this read.
That's really funny.
But yeah, you know, so that's...
It's an idea. Like, it's a concept. I do like, the only thing I like about that take is the Nora-Alice comparison, because Nora really does just take the shit that's thrown at her.
She really does.
I do really like this. I love the scene in the out of commission area that isn't out of commission, where she finds out all this stuff about like the captain, and she has that moment of breakdown. Mm-hmm. That's basically the only moment of breakdown that she has in the whole movie, where she's like thinking about just like destroying shit and like losing it for a minute there, but she pulls herself together, and that really lends to her final moment in the movie, where she decides to like make the two lovebirds get out alive and blow herself up. It really feels like we've seen her character come to the conclusion that like shit's bad and she might not be getting out of here alive, but that's okay. It feels like we did get to see her think that through.
Yeah, I remember when Alice did a big murder-suicide.
It kind of was, wasn't it?
Her final monologue about feeling helpless, but it's just a feeling that you're helpless, when she's staring down the actual, like, personification of human helplessness, Cthulhu, is just so great to me. I kind of really love
That's
that.
cheesy as hell, and I did hate it.
You promised Twitter that you would go off about strong female characters or something.
That is exactly what I'm doing right now. That is what I'm doing right now.
You said you would do the whole episode.
Yeah, but Noah talked about a bunch of stuff because it's his episode, so I guess it's just his.
If Nina wants to pick this movie next week to talk about Kristen Stewart, she can, but I have other things to talk about. Like
she has to pick Boss Baby.
Yeah,
it's true.
The classic horror movie. No, Kristen Stewart absolutely kills it in this movie. I loved everything about her characters. All of these characters felt really well-rounded, and I enjoyed all of them, honestly. Like even TJ Miller's character, once more, if it were anyone else, I would have loved the character. Sorry, you're making clacky noises over there. Sorry, that's my distraction. Go ahead.
I also, Jeff, I felt like you had some things to say about TJ Miller's character. Paul, because I made a note somewhere that I'm pretty sure it was just because of knowing who TJ Miller is, but I found Paul to be a little too distracting as a character and a little less with it, to the point where I made some note about saying, I really just want him to deliver his lines a little more seriously like everyone else's, because it feels like he was playing a totally different movie than everyone else.
Yeah.
I think that's true.
Partially works for his clearly unhinged character.
Yeah.
While it also doesn't quite work for me because I don't know. I just wanted him to be a little more on theme with everyone else. You know what I mean? Like there were a couple moments where everyone else was like frantic and panicked, and he just came in and was like, well, man, this is pretty bad, isn't it?
Yeah.
We're all mad down here, aren't we? Hey, little Paul. And it's like,
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
So it felt to me like the absurdity of Paul as a character kind of draws attention to the characterization of everyone else in the movie. Because I feel like if we didn't have him being this like ridiculous like caricature of what he is, you would end up thinking less about the other characters and they would all come across a lot flatter. Which they're not. These are actually pretty well fleshed out characters from what I could see.
Yeah, like Kristen Stewart mentions that what's-her-name's boyfriend is actually one of her friends from The Surface. And you get a hint at that when she steals a photo of her husband and the guy that was vibing on his console. She snags that. And then she's like, I made him promise to never talk about it down here. But he was my friend up there as well, and he knew my husband. And it's like, oh, cool.
Like, okay, there's more going on with these people here. Yeah, I think there's a lot of that just in the way that we see them all like react to the events that occur, like what their priorities are. Kristen Stewart's character, her priority is always just straight to like, what can I do? What can I be doing right now to try and alleviate this disaster? And with Smith and the captain, it's kind of the same with them. They're very focused just on what do they need to do next. But the captain is only focused on that like secondarily, because when he first encounters like her and Rodrigo, when they find the captain at the first, his immediate priority once they get the door open is just making sure that they're okay.
Yeah, he wants to get them out of here.
Won't even think about what to do to fix the situation until he has verified that they are okay. And once he has figured that out, then he's all business. He's all just, what do we do? And I don't know, I thought it was neat seeing every character's priorities laid so blatantly like that. I think that's kind of neat.
That is nice.
Because that's what really happens in a disaster situation like what they're facing there. And all their responses, the way that like Emily just like locks up and can't process anything, and she needs to just like try and talk through everything to try and be able to grasp any of it. Even that's like there's always going to be somebody who reacts that way. There's always going to be people that are all business, just trying to accomplish things, and there's always going to be a TJ Miller who's prioritizing his stuffed animal and cracking jokes all the time because that's the only way that he knows how to respond to things. Like I liked that a lot.
I really liked how, despite the situation, every character was so fundamentally selfless, like every single one of them. A lot of people died because they were putting other people first. Rodrigo is the first death, and he knew that helmet was cracked when he took it.
Yeah.
But he did it because it was the only way. He knew, and just like with Kristen Stewart at the end, he knew if he mentioned it, it would start an argument that would end up taking up so much time that everyone else would die.
Yeah.
So he just lied, and Kristen Stewart Nora takes cues from that at the end and does the same thing. And the captain dies selflessly. Both of the lovebirds, I can't even remember their names, but both of them are prepared at the end to be the last ones in the pod. Like TJ Miller's character, Paul, also, it makes a lot of jokes to try and help other people lighten up, specifically Emily. Like, all of these characters are not necessarily perfect people, but they are committed to taking care of each other, and I really liked that. No one's the evil spy who's going to turn around and betray the others to try and be the one who gets out alive. I really enjoyed that.
There's not an asshole in the team.
No,
which is
I really liked that.
Really nice, because usually the team in an ensemble cast like this one, usually there's an asshole who might have like a redemption moment at the end or something, but is just a dick through the rest of the movie. And we don't get that with this one. Everybody really is just trying to work together. That's really good.
I really do like it. But yeah, Noah was talking about TJ Miller being distracting. This is like a big, beyond TJ Miller being a scumbag. He is distracting in every movie I've ever seen him in. He always feels like he's like either trying to be the main character or is just in a different movie.
I guess that's actually kind of fair. When he's in Deadpool, he does try to run every scene he's in, doesn't he?
Yeah.
It really does come across that way, yeah.
I've never really liked him in any movie I've seen him in, even before like I heard about him being a shitbag. So
fair enough. So I'd like to talk conspiracies. Y'all down?
Okay.
Sure. Jeff, what were you thinking for a theme song for conspiracies?
Well, I'm on the spot here. I feel like Graham. Oh no. I didn't even have a nightmare to prepare me for this.
I feel like this is a good time to slip in. I always feel like somebody's watching me.
Oh, that would do it.
Ooh.
Okay.
Noah coming in clutch.
Okay. I mean, depending on the conspiracy, it could be that, or it could be like Electric Eye, or
Electric Avenue.
It could be Electric Eye. That's appropriate for almost anything, really.
Yeah.
I was thinking more of a kind of Jesus is a friend of mine vibe.
Okay.
Jesus is a friend of mine.
Conspiracy time. Conspiracy.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's good. Let's go with that.
All right. So, you ready?
Yeah.
Shepherd Station.
Okay.
Firstly, the captain has a locker at Shepherd Station. Whatever happened at Shepherd Station, he was aware of it because he was still the captain. I don't know if he was the entire captain of what's it called? Kepler, the first drill that they were on. I don't know if he was the only person in charge of that or if he was just in charge of their area, because it feels like a big drill. It has a 6-ton drill bit on it. The station feels larger than just one captain, but who knows?
Didn't he say it was like a 60, like a 6,000-ton drill?
Oh, well, I thought he said like 6,000 pounds.
No,
but 60-ton, 6,000 ton. Regardless, it's a big ass drill.
It's a big ass drill, yeah.
Feels like you need more people than just one captain would command, but irrelevant. He was still a captain at Shepherd Station, and Shepherd Station looked like a resupply station or a way station of some sort, you know? So he had a decent say in what goes on at Shepherd Station. His locker is where we find the map of the bottom of the ocean, with lines leading to Roebuck Drill, marking it on the map with conspiracy, red twine, and a big red pushpin.
Oh, that is conspiracy stuff. It's like a Pepe Sylvia board. Oh, man.
It is. But more importantly, there's actually a pentagram drawn on his underwater map with a skull in it.
Rarely
and
a good sign.
There's a sketch of Cthulhu and a like kind of H.R. Geiger looking sketch of a person kind of hunched up into a ball with long ass legs.
Concerning.
Oh, maybe that's where I got the idea about the clingers. Might have been from overanalyzing that.
Maybe. But yeah, you know, there's a lot of stuff in that, which makes I would like to put forward the theory. Because firstly, it's very easy to read the end of the movie as, and capitalism sucks, and they sent them right back to the bottom of the ocean. It's a very easy read. And unlike Alien, we don't have the Weyland-Yutani Corp very blatantly saying, yes, we are sacrificing our people to find alien life that we're going to weaponize. We don't have that blatant story element in this.
We do have the really chipper AI voice.
Giving us all those BioShock vibes.
Exactly.
I actually have a list written down of things that I got vibes of watching this movie, and it's like it's so many movies, it's so many video games, like
right, BioShock and Dead Space, because he picks up that plasma cutter
a lot of BioShock,
thing that's like,
a lot of Dead Space, The Descent a lot as well.
Yes,
a little bit of The Thing, just in like the group dynamic and the isolation. You know, you kind of get the impression that like everybody has different jobs, and that's why Emily is so worried about walking out in the water, because that's not part of her job. She's there to study algae.
She's a scientist that's here to study deep sea life, and they're like, "Yeah, you can sit on our drill, nerd."
Sure,
but because of that,
Event Horizon-ish.
Yeah. So TN Industries sends them down here to drill at the bottom of the ocean. There is evidence that some people, at least some people involved in the drilling on the bottom, actively were searching for the big bad himself or some other source of forbidden knowledge and power.
Sure.
There's active searching for something bad and it's centered on the Roebuck drill site. Now, it is worth noting that it was the Kepler drill that got picked up out of its hole and thrown away.
Right.
I don't know if that means that's where Cthulhu hatched or what. Maybe it was just some massive explosion that threw it out of there in conjunction with something else. We don't really know. But that's where Event 1 happened. Also, where did all the people on Roebuck go?
That was a question I was going to bring up. Yeah.
There's a lot of things that are just suspect. So I'd like to open up the floor to conspiracy theory ideas of if this movie had 10 more minutes, what would it have explored? Now, granted, none of us have watched the director's commentary track. I only just found out it exists, and I would love to have watched it, but I didn't have access.
That would have been cool.
I think they would explore, with an extra 10 minutes, Cthulhu's butt cheeks.
They probably would.
Thank you for that.
They would have fired a pod right up them.
Okay. Here's my question. Was the captain, since those notes were in his locker room, was the captain trying to figure out if people were summoning Cthulhu and trying to stop them, or was he part of the people who was searching or summoning Cthulhu?
I think he was searching, and he thought that they'd be able to find him without waking him up.
I like that.
That's more the camp that I'm in.
That's where I was at first, and then when you said like the conspiracy Pepe Sylvia board, I was like, maybe he's been like trying to figure out what the higher ups are up to, and he's just recently found out because he works so hard to save everyone. Now, if you're saying he didn't want to wake up Cthulhu and that was an accident, then that also lines up. But another possibility is he's been working really hard this whole time to figure this out before everything went wrong, but things went wrong before he could stop it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Because when we see him, he really does seem to be peak despair.
Yeah.
He's having a bad time.
It's not a good day.
He managed to send on. Well, I mean, he did manage to send some people up to the surface, and they did not survive. Because we know that because the end of the movie says there were 2 survivors.
Yeah.
And if that was a moment where they forgot at the beginning of the movie that he said he saved 8 people, then that's a problem. Or what, like...
Yeah.
Well, we did find one of those pods that he had sent off.
We did find one of them.
So it's kind of implied that they did just get wrecked immediately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the thought is either he sent a person away, he sent away a bunch of empty pods, but there was at least one dead person in a pod that got cracked open. So...
Yeah,
I don't know.
That's a really good question. It also raises the question to me of how far up did that planning go?
Yeah.
Because... was it like, did all the engineers, were they in on it, the people? Because my dad, okay, so fun fact about my dad. My dad was a chemical engineer, and part of his job was figuring out how to get oil out of the ground. He worked in Alaska and Texas doing this. So I'm wondering if people like him were like in on it, where they were
Your dad summoning Cthulhu.
My dad summoning Cthulhu. Oh no, deep lore. But like that's the kind of question is like, who all could have been in on this and I saw this in like an article that was like, what does this mean for potential sequels? I don't think this movie is getting a sequel. It made half its price.
I think it would be really nice. I would love a sequel just because I think this is a fun world to explore, but I would like them to give this director Alien. I would love them to move away from their current Alien storyline of Alien Covenant and Prometheus and that like shit show, and give us a scary alien movie again with this guy running it, because it's the same. It's good vibes.
I really hate that you're suggesting to reboot Alien.
I agree.
At the same time, though, it's not going to be worse than the sequels that keep coming out. So it's kind of like
they have already rebooted Alien, and they've done it poorly.
Well, I think part of the fun of this movie is that it is like you said at the beginning, it's doing everything the Alien did, but like in a new way. And I think just saying, oh, someone did Alien right, and then to like, instead of letting them continue to do additional things and new things, putting them on a franchise that's basically petered out at this point, I think I'd like to see him do more fun new things. It's kind of like you remember after The Endless how I was excited that Benson and Moorhead are working on Moon Knight. Yeah. I'm still excited to see that, but I'm like, these guys do such cool original work. I'm honestly part of me is a little bit dead inside that they're having them work on a big property.
Yeah, it sucks that they're getting put into a box. On the other hand, that could get them a lot more attention and funding, which would be helpful for their original stuff.
It also could do that.
You asked how far up does this conspiracy go, but I have a different question. How
low
does it go? Does Nora know? Because as soon as bad stuff starts happening and Rodrigo asks if it was an earthquake, she doesn't say, I don't know. She says very definitively, no, it's not an earthquake, as though she already suspects something specific.
See, that's a good point, but she doesn't even know for sure that the captain's daughter died at 14.
True.
So I think if she didn't know that, then there's a low probability that she knew that anything else was going on.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know a lot about my coworkers, but I also am aware of which of them think that the Freemasons are an evil cult and which one of them's don't.
That's an important thing to know about your friends.
Well, I think that's incredibly applicable to the conversation we're having right now, too. She would need to know which
Nora
parts
would not be a Freemason.
Do you think that Nora had, like, coworkers who were into the whole Cthulhu cult thing coming up to her and, like, subtly hinting that maybe she should come to a meeting this Saturday?
I think that's what Paul did every single day.
That's true.
Yo, Nora, we got a Cthulhu meeting. She's like, you go, Paul.
I mean, well, we do.
Somebody walks up to her with like a little pamphlet, Hail Hydra.
he just like changes it a little bit every time, but it is
new cult every weekend.
And all the Cthulhu worshippers broke into a dead panic when he said the actual one.
It's like the two of them are, this is the comedy version of this movie. The two of them are the only ones that aren't actually in the cult, so it is just a joke to them. But everyone else around them every single day just hears them and they're just like sweating.
It's that picture of Jordan Peele just like drenched. And that's everyone else on the Kepler, just like.
But yeah, that's actually another thing is like, obviously every company is going to be really secretive when a giant disaster happens.
Oh, totally. Well, but also we do get all those, during the opening credits, we get all those like newspaper clippings that serve as our only real setup to the movie. And they're all talking about there being like weird sightings on the drills at the bottom of the trench and stuff. And I
couldn't tell if that was newspaper clippings or like internal documents that were being like shown to us.
That makes more sense.
Both.
That makes more sense.
It was definitely both.
Yeah. Because, like, I liked that at the end of the movie where it's like, the company is declining to let the survivors speak.
Everything about the situation is classified.
I'm guessing Emily and what's-his-face? The guy who plays Smith. Okay, Smith is played by the same guy who played my favorite character in 10 Cloverfield Lane. Yeah.
I didn't know that he was played by... Oh, shoot. I was really hoping I'd remember his name.
You have IMDb open.
I'm not going to look up what's his name. The only other man in the movie.
Yeah.
You all know who I mean.
Do you mean John Goodman?
John Goodman. I didn't know John Goodman was in this movie.
John Goodman as
my
Cthulhu.
God. That'd be so funny.
You're out of your elements.
I really want a version of this movie where it's just John Goodman lines from other movies. Anytime there is a shot of Cthulhu, like it's Kristen Stewart looking at him at the big window, and she's like running to the sides, and he's smashing down the hallways, and he's like, "You are out of your element. You're
Kristen.
like a child who walks into the middle of a movie and wants to know what's going on."
It's like the people who take James Spader's Lizard King monologue from The Office and put it over Ultron in Age of Ultron. It's the same vibes. Oh my god. This is a really good conspiracy section. I gotta hand it to us.
I think it is fair to assume that there's a lot more higher ups involved in this than would be implied. Also, there's a strong possibility. I mean, you're going to raise questions. 2 drill sites were one drill site was vaporized. The other drill site was completely destroyed, which, by the way, the imploding hallway looked so good.
Yes.
That looked so nice.
Your heart can like drop when like the outside shot in the very beginning where it like just crunches like a tin can.
Yeah.
Oh, so good.
I see Emma is having the same feelings that talking about it that I had watching it that first time. Because, oh boy. I will ding them design points for not making tubes. Because the inside doesn't need to be round, but the outside really should be round for like structural integrity reasons.
Might be.
I'm not an architect.
Stuff.
Yeah.
But I do know that round things crush harder than things with corners.
For people who enjoyed this movie, 2 video games I would recommend are Subnautica and Soma, I'm pretty sure is what the other one is called. Soma more than Subnautica. But like both of those have tube-shaped outer like things. And I thought of both of those when we were watching this movie. Specifically Soma.
I would recommend Dead Space.
And
because
BioShock.
It's not underwater, but it's the same vibe.
Soma has a whole stretch where you're walking on the seafloor, just like in this movie, and there's like any moment something could come and get you.
Yeah, I'm not playing that.
Yikes. Yeah, horrifying.
I would recommend Final Fantasy XIV, the award-winning MMO that you can play up to level 60, including its first expansion pack, Heavensward, for free.
For free?
For free.
Hot damn.
So after that wonderful ad break, I was thinking maybe we can read Noah's notes.
I would love to.
Can we
read
give
Noah's
it
notes.
Jeff has
one
something to
moment
say.
here?
Oh yeah, go for it.
All this like hallway crushing stuff brings up something that I wrote very early on in my notes, which is water might actually be scarier than space.
Yes.
Because, I mean, you know, in terms of like the danger and the isolation and all those kinds of, you know, external factors that are provided, being underwater and being in space is, you know, a very similar like narrative kind of situation. But I think water just feels worse, you know, because like the idea of space feels so like passive, right? It feels like you're creating a bubble of life-sustaining thing to move yourself through it. But space itself feels really passive, whereas water feels like it is very specifically trying to kill you the entire time that you're down there.
Yeah,
you know?
And another difference is we think there might be things out in space trying to kill us. We know for a fact there are things in the water that are trying to kill us.
And we don't know what they are,
but
we know they're there. And you can't see. That's the biggest thing, is you can't see as far because water just stops light at that depth. And you can see infinitely in space. So it's like there's just this extra crushing claustrophobic element to it that, like, I don't know. I just the early scenes, like the opening shot is awesome as it's panning down the entire thing that as it goes all the way to the bottom of the trench. That's really cool. But also, like, just that early scene where we've got like Kristen Stewart in the bathroom and she's walking through the hallway and that drip falls down in front of her. As soon as you see that drip, you're just like, fuck, that means that everybody's about to die. And you don't even know that that's the direction the movie's going yet. Like,
so my favorite part was thinking, how much does this thing flex on a regular basis? Because when it's clearly tilty and that that mirror swings open, she's just like, the mirror's open again, and she closes it like nothing happened.
You see the hallways rattling around and stuff. And
but then one drip.
I get uncomfortable.
My stomach fell right out my butt.
Yeah.
And it stayed out my butt for the whole movie.
Now, as soon as the bad stuff started happening, then I thought it was like 15 minutes into the movie before I was finally like, oh, this isn't a dream sequence then. All right. Because I thought with the way that her opening monologue starts out with, like, you know, not knowing how time passes and not knowing whether you're dreaming or not, like, you know, that kind of, as she said all of that, I was like, okay, so this disaster stuff that's happening right now is going to be over in a second and she's going to wake up and be like, oh, and then the whole like questioning reality thing would be a theme going through the rest of the movie, which would have fit really well with the Alice in Wonderland thing.
Right?
I don't know why they didn't do that.
Honestly, you know why they didn't? This movie's really tight.
It
is 95 minutes of nonstop activity.
It does.
Like, I remember in the theater, I felt like there was a much longer walking on the ocean floor part than there was. And I know that a lot of my feelings about that were because I was in a state of borderline panic, I want to say. And that is 100% why I did not like this movie as much the first time, I think.
It scared you too much?
I think it pushed enough fear buttons that while I was not like, afraid, I was incredibly uncomfortable and panicky through the entire experience.
Having a bad time.
99% sure that's what happened.
Okay.
That's valid, though.
I wish if they could have tacked that onto the beginning and have it be like that was just her daydreaming in the bathroom, like, what's the worst that could happen? And then something else happens. It could be interesting, but I'm also glad they didn't, because
also, I think that Jeff and I discussing how much underwater is scarier than space is like, I don't know that you and I are scared in the same way that Noah and Emma are of the underwater.
No.
Like, but I think it's our long form way of saying that we get it.
Yeah.
Like, because like, I don't think I'm scared in the same way that you guys are, in that I can watch the movies and not be like, when I was watching that the first time, I was not in that state of panic because it's not a specific phobia that I have.
Right.
But seeing that picture of that goddamn squid, like, that gets me a little. I'm like, squid, why does it look like that?
Knock knock.
Do you guys ever see those like videos where it's a picture of them like above water, just kind of floating around?
I hate those. I hate those so
under the
much.
water and there's a fucking shark.
I hate those so much. Because it's someone in like a normal pool in a forest that is for some reason inky black but with hands in it or something. I hate those so much. Emma, why would you make me think about those? Oh my gosh, I hate those so much. For crying out loud, those are the worst. Someone talk about something, because I'm going to spiral.
Oh, I was going to talk about the giant like worm colonies that are this like tunnel that just looks like a giant worm, but like not in a scary way. Here, I want to show you a picture.
What?
Here,
Worms aren't scary.
Look.
You haven't seen these worms, man.
No, he's not scary. He's just a really cool looking.
He's just a glowing ocean tube.
It's just an ocean tube.
It looks like one giant worm, but it's not one giant worm.
It's not a giant worm. I think it's.
What about Noah's Notes?
What about Noah's Notes?
Right, Noah's Notes.
Now, I thought that there's supposed to be a theme song for my notes, and I will not allow any of them to be read until I hear a theme song.
Well, you better come up with one.
I don't think I'm being unreasonable when I say, Jeff, you need to give me a theme song.
But I'm playing a reverse card on you. You have to come up with it. That doesn't feel good, does it? Wow.
It's called a pyrosome.
What was that? What was that, Jeff?
No, you have to do it.
Is that one of your notes ideas? Because that note sucks.
Well, you have to do it.
Okay, I'm sorry. I was just sharing two facts. You guys good?
There has to be a theme song.
I got no theme song, Jeff.
No, okay, here we go. Here we go, everybody. I'll do the theme song this week. Silence on set. Here we are, Noah's Notes. We have made it to this part of our show, so here we go. Let's all go to Noah's Notes.
That's really good. I was still stuck on worms, so I was gonna go for the beginning of the Bullet with Butterfly Wings, where it's like the world is a vampire, but I was gonna be like the worm is a vampire. But Emma's is so much better, so let's do that.
Is that an original song that you did for this? Or
Me?
Yes.
That's a Emma original.
Yeah, it sounds like jingles that I've heard you do before. I don't know.
I
make up jingles all the time.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying Emma has a very distinct original style, and I knew right off the bat that was an Emma original. I'm done with worms. Let's talk about
if you're such a huge fan of Emma, name 3 of her albums.
So, okay, actually, Noah's first note here is that I want to read is actually something that made me think really hard at the very beginning of the movie. Mm-hmm. Kristen Stewart does not kill the spider by drowning it. Like, the spider obviously still dies a drowning death. But
as far as we know.
I think it's really interesting because as far as I was watching her, my thought when she saved that spider was like she was going to do it, but then she stopped. What I can imagine going through her head is like her imagining dying that death and being like, that sucks. I wouldn't wish that on anyone. That's something I face every day. I'm not going to do that to a spider. And so she saves it instead.
I don't know that was my read on it, personally.
What was your read on it?
I read it as we're supposed to get the idea that she's kind of a selfless person.
I mean, that too. But maybe that's just another dimension of that same idea.
I thought it was more to show us how depressed she was, that she was like, you know what, I'm not going to increase the suffering on this fucking drill thing by making this spider die. If he made it all the way down here, he deserves to live, or something like that. Exactly.
I think all of it together is just the empathy that she has for other people and other creatures. All 3 of what we kind of read from that situation is just reading that Kristen Stewart's character Nora has a really high level of empathy, and it's not in like the really basic way of like, I mean, it is a really basic way to show that, but I still liked the scene. I still liked it a lot, specifically because the way she was going to kill the spider is the way that she potentially could die every day of her life living under the water like this.
Yeah.
What do we got? We've got the flexing and shifting question of I wonder how much the station would flex and shift on an average day. I assume not too much, but there would be a little, right? I think of like a house settling and how much that disturbs me in the middle of the night. I could not live on a space station or underwater where there's just going to be random stuff hitting against the outside every now and again, or currents making it shift like that. Like I watch videos of people who live on boats just having the whole thing go almost vertical in waves sometimes. I think to myself, I could not live like that. I think something was wrong every time something happened.
Yeah, I like being able to set down a glass of milk without it spilling.
Me too.
It's pretty nice. One of the underrated pleasures of living on land.
First world problems.
We have all the sea god stuff on the walls. Nice basic foreshadowing. Yeah, I apparently didn't watch close enough to notice the sea god stuff that was mentioned both in the article that we read about what Cthulhu foreshadowing there was, and also in Noah's notes. Like, I was looking out for the tattoo, and I was looking out for the locker stuff, but I forgot to look out for the sea god stuff on the walls.
Are we talking about like in the room where they're putting on their exoskeletons, and Emily like looks at it and she freaks out about it?
Yeah.
Ah, yeah.
I was
kind of wondering why they had that on the wall there.
Yeah, there's like a zoom in on some Aquaman.
Who painted that there? What?
Right?
Who did that?
I mean,
sick bastard did that.
There's a lot of sailors there. It's a sailor thing.
That's
like they're
true.
I would
ocean
expect
people.
ordinary graffiti type stuff.
So the
drawn
people
on the walls, or like Sailor Jerry type flash art at the.
I mean, it was kind of a Sailor Jerry thing.
No, it wasn't. It was like a goddamn Baroque painting. What are you talking about?
I have friends who sailed a wooden ship called the Odyssey that had carvings of Odysseus's journey. You know, Odysseus, the guy cursed by Poseidon to never be safe in the water. So sometimes I think about that.
That seems...
They're trying to do a
in
fake
poor
out.
taste.
It has never
cursed by
sunk or
Poseidon
anything,
to not be
obviously.
safe on the water, and also just if you follow the entire arc of his story, everybody on his crew died. Like,
The thing has survived since World War II, so obviously the curse has not like had an issue. But still,
okay, but boy, I'd
we
be worried.
have this movie is so incredibly claustrophobic, followed by watching that helmet crack is dead terrifying.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Hearing the popping noises, and even before there are visible cracks, I
You just
lose my
hear
shit.
it and you know.
Mm-hmm.
And you think about all that crushing pressure from all that water.
Stop! No.
And you think about those spooky squids
The spooky squid.
just drifting around.
We have when Emily mentions like having her realization that the little dude, the little face dude that they grab is a baby version of what might be out there. Noah just wrote, "It do indeed be a baby. It do.
Yeah.
It do indeed be a baby."
Also, this is something that I didn't notice the first time, but when they're running from the bottom of Kepler Station into the tunnel, there's some clingers just standing there at the top of the
Yeah.
like rock outcrop.
Oh
Oh,
my
Just
god.
standing and watching, like,
Just chilling.
yeah, full straight up standing, pure black outline, just staring at them.
Absolutely terrifying.
You could see their eyes glint every now and then.
Yeah, I know there's a
Hate
lot
that.
of stuff in the earlier underwater scenes where you see them just like standing out there in the background. So by the time Paul says Slender Man looking thing, you've like already noticed it.
Mhm.
And you think
Once
like, oh,
again-
that was actually a thing. That wasn't just like a shadow in the background or something.
Once again, you can't just say Slender Man looking thing and then pretend that you didn't purposefully give it a Slender Man looking shape.
At least they're not wearing suits.
That's true.
That's true. The
Look at
bar
all
is
those
super
men
low.
in diving suits at the bottom of the ocean. That's
Um,
weird. That man's
It's
wearing
like
a normal suit.
Bioshock.
I already have my pick for next week, but given what you guys just said, like I wish I could change my pick to Ghost Ship because I feel like it does so much wrong about sea horror in that there's almost
I've
no
been
sea
looking
elements.
forward to your pick. Don't change
No, I'm
it.
not going to change it.
And we got to space out Ghost Ship from everything else.
I really want to do a Ghost Ship Event Horizon double feature because we did it by accident, but it's actually the perfect double feature in the long run.
It's true.
We have this note in the book. Paul, you haven't actually said anything about the book other than a single quote. I feel like you can't just say in the book like everyone's on the same page as you. Yeah, they never actually say the words Alice in Wonderland in this freaking
Well,
movie.
that would be a little too on the nose,
It would.
don't you think?
He
Far
can
too
say
obvious.
Alice in Wonderland when
Well,
he's like
he
quoting
says
it.
in the book Alice blah blah blah. So I
Yeah.
mean, it is.
It feels like there's a deleted scene where he does say the words
He
Alice
looks
in
dead in the
Wonderland.
camera and says, Alice in Wonderland. This movie is an homage to Alice in Wonderland.
In the book, feels like he definitely did mention it earlier on, but like
I mean, he quoted the book earlier on.
Yeah,
but he just said it's from a book. If you don't know
where you're going, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He says it's from a book. He could have just said it's from Alice in Wonderland. Like, it wouldn't have, especially since he's a huge fan of Alice in Wonderland, as demonstrated by everything about him. When I quote something that I like, I don't say it's from a movie. I say what movie it's from.
It's from Phenomena.
It's from Emperor's New Groove. I feel like that's most of my conversations, though.
Just quoting the Emperor's New Groove.
Yeah.
Another John Goodman movie, by the way. That's another set of quotes that we could toss onto Cthulhu there.
We have minus 20 points for mentioning Slenderman. Yeah, well, he still gave it an 8 out of 10 and not a negative whatever.
A negative 12? Like, I'm going to mark it a negative 12.
I understand that you don't want people to talk about Slenderman, but like, I didn't think that was a bad reference to make.
I think I hated it mostly because it was still just TJ Miller.
That's fair. Yeah. Okay.
With his other deliveries,
it felt a little bit cringy. I don't know that, like, referencing pop culture in movies often comes off as a little bit cringy to me, especially internet culture. And from the main character of the Emoji Movie to reference Slenderman in a different movie did make me a little annoyed.
I feel like you've referenced the Emoji Movie many times recently, and I don't appreciate it.
Count the Emoji Movie against Underwater because they are separate movies and completely unrelated to one another, other than the existence of TJ Miller in real life.
No, I want to be
real
mean
life
to
is
TJ
something
Miller,
that you're supposed to like forget about when you're watching movies.
He deserves
You're supposed to acknowledge the fact that that's TJ Miller playing a character and not just TJ Miller.
No, I'm just saying that we can forget the other movies he was in while he's doing this role.
You're not supposed to think about that while you watch movies. That's all I'm saying. You can't keep.
I mean, who's the one who mentioned
criticizing things about this movie and then being like, "Well, the Emoji Movie exists, so that means this is a criticism."
Was in Ocean's 12.
That was
me.
That
was you.
You didn't say that as a detractor. It was just
that was a fun fact. This is the only other movie I have seen him in.
I have seen him.
It's a very interesting fun fact.
Isn't he the teacher in Black Swan?
He is in Black Swan, but I've never seen it.
No.
Oh, we should watch that one.
Fuck Black Swan. All my homies hate Black Swan.
Anyway, that guy has a really interesting face, honestly.
He does.
He's got a football
He's the
face.
most French person I've ever seen in my life.
It's so French.
He kind of looks like Antonio Banderas, except French.
He looks so much less French with the stubble, which reminds me of a picture of Hugh Laurie I saw with no stubble.
Oh, that's weird.
And yeah, they were like, oh, so the reason they had House be all stubbly is because he looks 1,000,000% more British without any facial hair.
Okay, this is an important note. I can't tell if all the little dudes are hanging onto his skin or sprouting from his skin, but I really hate the latter option.
Yeah.
Oh, it's like a Medusa situation.
Some of them definitely seem to be
Except
separate.
Cthulhu is like, Hungarian or something, so he's just covered in hair. Except the hair is monsters.
What was the sentence you even just said? I have no idea what you just said, and I didn't like it at all. That was just bad.
What?
No.
What? Why would you say that? You of all people.
You just said Cthulhu's a hairy Hungarian, but his hair is the monsters.
Yeah, it's like a Medusa situation.
No,
that is not a good point. It could be like a Medusa situation.
Yeah, but he specifically was like, yeah, he's a hairy Hungarian, but his body hair is monsters. And that's... I just hate that so much.
What part of that is so terrible?
Everything.
Is it being racist against Hungarians? Because I know some Hungarians. It's okay. They said I could say it.
Anyway, that concludes Noah's notes, apart from the one thing that says, two things actually. One says, depth, 6.9 miles. Nice.
Roebuck was 6.9 miles down.
And then we have 2 notes later. Oh yeah, the vor scene. Can we talk about the vor scene really quick? I just want to mention that these shots of through Kristen Stewart's helmet, seeing the inside of this monster as it attempts to swallow her whole, like a snake unhinging its jaws, as she's trying to stick the flare gun up, like pull her arms to her side so that she can shoot it from the inside. Terrifying.
Yeah.
Loved it. The effects were actually really good. Seeing like raw, squishy, translucent meat like pressed up against the glass. Terrifying.
Yeah. Gross.
And especially as she like crawls out of the body and she looks around and there's all those other ones just standing there and watching, and it's like, oh no, is she gonna have to do this again? Are they just gonna keep doing this until somebody eats her successfully? Like, ugh.
I think she only had one flare, so it sucks for her.
No, she had two because she shot the other one at Cthulhu.
Yeah.
She's like, how big is that? And then she lit him up and he was big.
He was.
Massive.
See, something Nina decided to not mention is the part where Nora gets her new outfit that looks like the next level armor item because it's a different color and it's studded with, it's got a bunch of spikes on it.
Yeah, it's kind of odd.
I loved that.
I thought it was older than the one that she was actually wearing, so I felt like a downgrade.
Well, I mean, it clearly is older, but it also, in armor terms, if you look at it, it's clearly better.
That's fair.
You know, all the games are like, when the armor is better, it's got more spike on it.
That's the games have told me this in the past.
That's all I'm saying. So yeah, that was Underwater. I don't know. Anyone have any other thoughts about the movie before we wrap up?
The soundtrack's nothing special, but I like it.
It works for what it is.
Yeah.
Is there much of a soundtrack?
Just a little bit. I only noticed it a few times. It's tasteful. It does its job.
All I remember is TJ Miller cranking the radio and being like, okay, I'll turn it down. Fine. And then the pop song during the credits. And
oh yeah, I remember that part.
That's all I remember.
I think they should have had like a Tool song or something.
I think they should have had a Rob Zombie original soundtrack song.
Oh yeah. Underwater, yeah.
Cthulhu rising from the bottom of the sea. Yeah.
Look, here's the thing. We do
have
just
some rad
need
John 5 solo.
Okay, I'm sorry. I just realized that the company that they work for is called Pontus Endeavors, and Pontus is the Greek titan of the sea.
Oh.
And then later they're talking about the Roebuck drill, and they're like, or the Kepler or whichever, and they're like, this is the titan of drilling technology.
Titan class drill, yeah.
Titan class drill.
The Roebuck.
So fun little, more nods. They didn't talk about that in their little nods to things, but I think it's fun.
I mean, I'm sure that if we actually watched the movie with the director commentary, he probably would mention, yeah, we decided to delicately sprinkle in so much mythology.
Honestly, which is, it's actually kind of neat in the long run. I love little nods like that personally. It feels like a love letter to things that inspire you to like not like fully base yourself off of that mythology, but to like mention it every now and again.
It makes it feel less like a poorly thought through ripoff of other things. Mm-hmm. It shows that actual thought and effort was actually put into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
So that's Underwater. I recommend you check this one out. I definitely slept on it at first. And by slept on it, I mean I watched it opening night and said, nah, this sucks.
Yeah, I was about to say, if by slept, you mean shit.
Yeah. But it's very, very much worth a return to. I think we can all agree on that one. It's at least worth a single watch.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's on HBO.
It is on HBO for free right now.
Oh.
You know, if you're a millionaire with HBO.
I am really sorry. I want to read something that made me very angry really quick, and then we'll move on. This is a film review that sucks. It says
review of Underwater?
The film opens with its grabbiest visual effect, which is Kristen Stewart's hair. It's been dyed to a whiter shade of blonde and cropped so prison camp short that it's beyond anything that pretends to look fetching.
What?
But that's what's supposed to make it cool.
Huh?
Are you calling my wife ugly?
What you talking about? She looked good.
When you said Kristen Stewart's name, I was dead terrified you were about to say her feet.
No. There is a shot that does linger too long on her feet, but that's not what we're talking about.
You can tell that guy hates women.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah.
God forbid.
He probably calls them females when he's talking to his friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yikes.
What a long-winded way to say that you wouldn't let your wife cut her hair
short. What a
short.
long-winded way to say you're homophobic.
Right?
Yeah, no kidding. Anyway, I just hated that and I wanted to share it with you
guys. That was bad, Nina. That was really bad.
Now, if he would have said that
welcome.
the combination of the hair and the glasses made her look like Eminem, I could hear that. However,
yeah, no, that's also true. That's
he
actually
didn't
very
say
true.
that. Therefore, he's an idiot.
You didn't make the clear connection. Anyway, I think that it was fun to talk about this movie, and I'm glad we did it.
Yeah.
Had a great time watching it. I liked it a lot.
So, Nina, what movie are we watching next time?
Yeah, next week we are going to watch Spring by directors Benson and Moorhead, who made The Endless. Hold on and let me see.
Wow, we just watched a movie by them.
Yeah, we did.
What was it?
The Endless.
Oh, I remember that movie. It's a good 7 out of 10.
That one is
revised
it
to an 8.
It looks like it is on both Prime and Hulu if you have a basic subscription. It doesn't say premium subscription, so that doesn't mean HBO. It doesn't say HBO anywhere on here. You don't need HBO.
It's also on Tubi.
It's also on Tubi if you are cheap AF.
If you're one of my people.
Or not Tubi.
But yeah, so definitely watch that one before you tune in because you're going to want to go into that having already watched the movie, and you're going to want to go into the movie as blind as possible. So
yeah, don't watch a trailer.
Don't.
Cool.
Did you watch a trailer, Nina?
I haven't seen anything about it.
Good.
Neither have I.
I'm just super excited.
I'm really excited to see what you guys think next week as someone who did watch a trailer.
I'm very excited. And Emma, since you're very excited, where could people see you being excited about things? That one fell apart.
If you
want
to see me being excited about things, you can find me on Twitter. And actually, I have an updated @ So
Ooh.
I'm at Emma Panada now.
Nice.
That's M Panada, but with Emma. So you can find me there. You can also find me as the one who runs the podcast Twitter at Casual Horror Pod.
Yeah.
So you can follow us there if you want updates on what movies we're going to be talking about and some other random things that I post sometimes. I'm also going to be starting to be a player for a streamed campaign.
Ooh.
Over at twitch.tv/Stella Luna. I'm playing as a player through the Ghosts of Salt Marsh. And that's starting, it's this Wednesday, so it'll be last Wednesday by the time this episode comes out, but we'll be playing every other week. And that should be a good time.
Nice.
Super duper.
Jeff, how about you?
Well, you could find me on one of them places where I am. God damn it. Instagram at the Hammer of Jeff and Twitter at Bubba Wubbadab BUBBAWUBBABDDABBBDB.
You had it, and then you fitzed out.
No, I got it. I messed up the last 3 letters.
That's what I said.
It's fine.
No, you said I had it. You'll figure it out. Whatever.
It's fine. You can find me, Nina Wolverina, at that address basically anywhere, unless you're looking for horror-specific content. In which case, you can find me at House Usher Rises. I post live threads sometimes about movies that I watch that don't make it to the podcast because they suck so bad that I can't even talk about
like
them.
Edgar Allan Poe.
Like, what's it called? Extraordinary Tales, an animated anthology of Edgar Allan Poe stories that is most of the shorts are worse than student thesis films for Cal Arts that I have seen, which
Yikes.
is not a shit on Cal Arts students. They are incredible. It's more of a shit on people who can manage to hire Guillermo del Toro to narrate a story but can't freaking get good animation. Sorry.
Managed to license Bela Lugosi reading a story but can't do anything good with that either.
Yeah. No, if you want to get more details on how bad that was, definitely check out House Usher Rises on Twitter.
And as always, you can find me as Bubba Da Bad, BUBBADABAD on Twitch, Twitter, and Insta. I am there.
Hell yeah.
I haven't had much good stuff to say recently because I try to not tweet about work. But I'm going to try and tweet about movies more because I actively do want to do that. So be on the lookout for that.
Oh,
nice.
Neat.
Well, everybody, we will see you next time when we talk about the movie Spring. Thanks so much for listening, and see you later.